Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for downloading a brand new episode of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo. And of course, I am Elvis Arroyo, and this is episode 43. And on this episode, we are speaking TLC pay-per-view, Raw and SmackDown. Also, Seth Rollins. Also going to give you guys what to watch and my MVPs and floppers for the week. But before we get started, guys, I want to give you a reminder. Head on over to our YouTube page. Hit subscribe. You can find us there at Speaking Wrestling. You can also find us at Speaking Wrestling on Instagram and on Twitter, Speaking Wrestle. All right, guys, so let's get going. In this past weekend, we had TLC pay-per-view live from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this pay-per-view was really good. I gotta say, it's the last pay-per-view of the decade. A lot of people were posting about it on social media, that it's the last one of the 10 years, and as we go into 2020, we start a new era and a new decade, hopefully. But a lot of the same shenanigans went on in this last pay-per-view. And like I said last week's show, this pay-per-view had this build-up that was really impromptu and almost last second. Some of the matches were being made and announced while the show was going on, especially that Humberto Carrillo and Andrade. And let's start there because they had a great match in the kickoff show. These two guys, once again, going at it, another battle. And again, it's one of these things that if you're a Latino superstar, you get pigeonholed into competing with the other Latino superstars, or if you have a lucha background, then they automatically think that you're not going to work with anybody else other than someone with another lucha background. So these two guys go out there and rip it, and I know these guys probably feel the same way, like, here we go again, I'm like having a rivalry with the same guy since I've debuted pretty much. But hey, they go out there and tell a hell of a story. Another great matchup from these two, and Humberto Carrillo picks up the victory here. Great matchup on the kickoff show, and again, this only led to a great show. I mean, for what could have been a glorified house show or just a live event on a Sunday evening, kind of like the Starcade thing they had a couple weeks ago, but this one obviously more amped up with, this big stage and the fact that this has actually been promoted for a while now, that it's going to be on the WWE Network rather than last minute. But again, still, sometimes those shows like Stomping Grounds earlier this year, or some of those like great big balls of fire, or great balls of fire, really. Those end up coming off to be those pay-per-views that almost really don't care if you missed it at all. Really, these pay-per-views turn into just kind of transitional pay-per-views onto the next one, and we are onto another big pay-per-view next month, and that is the Royal Rumble 2020. But before we get there, guys, we got to tell the story of 2019 coming to a close, and TLC definitely brought the house down. The New Day and Revival in a tag team match, in a ladder match, actually. This was announced over the weekend. Man, what a tremendous matchup from these two. And I said these guys were going to have a wrestling clinic. They did say they were going to have an old school match, and then it was announced that it was going to be a ladder match. So, a little bit of confusion there because going into the pay-per-view, and like I predicted, I thought this was going to be a wrestling clinic, and I did think that the Revival were going to pick up the championships here, but with the ladder being involved here, I really think that the stakes were raised, and I think obviously the titles were raised in the center of the ring. But this was a tremendous matchup. Kofi and Big E having great performances here. Another reason why these two guys, if they ever branch off on their own, can have great success and a ladder match. And Revival, these two guys, amazing. I would love to see them in a ladder match again. We saw them in a ladder match before in NXT, and now on the main roster with guys that are top veteran top guys like Kofi and Big E. So good stuff here. But the winners, New Day, Kofi Kingston picks up the championships there for the New Day. This was a good show. I mean, two matches going into it, and you feel like, right on, this is good. Another match we had going on here is Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy in a one-on-one competition. And this was a really good competitive matchup, I gotta say. Buddy caught Aleister Black halfway through the match. Aleister was suffering with, he had like a busted lip and a busted nose through this whole time. Great stuff here. Picks up the win here with a black mass that literally came out of nowhere. Good stuff from Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy there. Also, we had Lana, Rusev, and Bobby Lashley all involved in a tables match, and I really thought that this match was going to really be a little bit more entertaining match, not just your straightforward table match. But I did say if they want to go all Dudley Boys, Royal Rumble 2000, then they can go for it, and that's pretty much what they did here. I was expecting more of a shenanigans entertainment spot, and that was blown on the tag team match between the Viking Raiders having an open challenge against the OC, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, and there was a KFC table there that they had literally just announced right before the match, so you know, like, okay, they're gonna use it, obviously. And you know, they were having everything you can get at KFC was on this table, and they wasted that spot on the OC. And I was thinking, hey, there's a table match coming up at the end of the show or throughout the show, and it's the Rusev and Lashley match. Odds are that someone is going to go through a table full of bucket of chicken. And I was thinking that it should be the fucking table match, but no, they blew the spot on that only for them to go through to a double count out. That match really didn't matter. And of course, we saw the next night on Monday Night Raw, they had a rematch again. And then once again, that match didn't matter. Although Gallows and Anderson do pick up the victories here. They picked up a victory before against the Viking Raiders. Why are they not tag team champions or getting a title opportunity? But it looks like they are going to now after the victory on Monday Night Raw over the Viking Raiders. Good stuff there. But again, back to that Lashley-Rusev table match. I mean, I did have conflicting thoughts of it going to a table match and, you know, pretty much 3 months of storytelling between these three, and it's going to end on just a fucking table match. So I really thought you should use a gimmick table to end this. And they just ended it on a table match. Lashley just drives Rusev right through it, and that's it. And you don't really get any follow-up. You know, as we saw on Monday night, Rusev and Lana are still together, and, you know, they're going forward with their thing. And again, I'm actually more intrigued with this and willing to follow this storyline a lot more now that Rusev is out of the picture. Not that Rusev was bad or anything. I mean, if anything, Lana, when you have all three of them involved in the storyline, Lana's been the one that's been horrific. You know, second is Rusev, but he's entertaining, although you are kind of walking like a tightrope every time he speaks, thinking like, oh my God, please say something smart. Oh, he said something funny. Yay. And Lashley's just been fucking amazing, dude. I mean, seriously, Bobby Lashley's been doing the best performance out of all three of them, and it's because his range. We've never seen this range from Bobby Lashley, and the fact that this was, you know, something that was presented to him, and he's fucking taken the chains and ran with it, man. I mean, he's literally taking this shit by the horns and running with it. So good stuff there, and which is why I'm more intrigued. You know, Lana having Lashley the next night, her pulling out a ring only for him to propose to her, and then there's a line in there, you know, just like we rehearsed. So it's cringeworthy, it's confusing, but it's like a bad car crash. When you drive by, you just can't help but look at it. We also had Bray Wyatt and The Miz in a non-title match, non-Universal Championship match here. And really all that mattered here was the end of the match. I mean, we did see Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, show up on a Titantron, but we also saw in the ring with The Miz, the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray Wyatt. But Daniel Bryan coming in here, making a save, and also making his presence be known. I mean, did he really come out to save The Miz? I don't think so. I think it's just Daniel Bryan. But Daniel Bryan, man, donning that American Dragon look, going back 10 years. I mean, seriously, and I saw all the memes online about, you know, the 10-year challenge, and what a time to do a 10-year challenge as we're closing up a decade and we're looking back on the past decade. And Daniel Bryan literally looks just like, I mean, go back to when he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship back in 2011. It literally looks just like Daniel Bryan, like that. Like Daniel Bryan when he was with AJ Lee, Daniel Bryan when he was losing the title at WrestleMania 28, Daniel Bryan when he was, you know, being left at the altar and then getting rock bottom by The Rock on Raw 1000. I mean, go back to that. I mean, go back to or I mean, like, I would say halfway of the Team Hell No, because that's really when Daniel really started growing out that beard and started really growing out the hair and really getting to that whole goat face character. I know it was just, you know, for comedy and stuff like that, but it kind of became him, and he grew the hair out. And, you know, 2019 he was full blown, like the longest we've ever seen Daniel Bryan have hair, which was really cool, really awesome. But I really got to say, when you looked at his face, you looked at his template, he was really showing some like wrinkles. He was looking old. He was looking like Jesus out there, man. He was looking like Charlie Manson and Kurt Cobain together, as like present Kurt Cobain if he were still alive. And he goes and gets his head shaved, which I think he, if not, and if anybody does the homework, I believe he probably donated that hair to Locks for Love or Locks of Love. Daniel Bryan's a very giving guy like that, and I know he's always willing to do something for others to help out. So kudos to him if that is indeed what he did. I'm sure it is, because Daniel Bryan, like I said, yeah, he's such a wonderful person inside and outside of the ring, and donning a new haircut, man, and I'm taking it back to that American Dragon, and I love it. I love it. Now, the one thing I don't love is the fact that living in 2019, there's been the memes of Daniel Bryan, turning into Orange Cassidy, and come on. I mean, it's funny, it's spoof, but I mean, like, if anybody draws any comparisons to that, you are out of your mind. Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin in a TLC match for what? Nothing. It would have been great if it would have been for dog food. I mean, seeing that Baron Corbin loves to embarrass his opponents with dog food, just like he was going to attempt to do to Kofi Kingston, and he did to Roman Reigns a few weeks ago on SmackDown, which would have been fitting for either one of them. One, Baron Corbin would love to get his hands on some dog food and do the same thing again to Roman Reigns. But in this case, if it was dog food hanging over the balance, I think it would have been awesome for Roman Reigns to be the one attempting to grab that dog food and have his moment to spread it all on King Corbin. But again, we saw just like 1,000 run-ins into this, and it really, didn't matter. It was Dolph Ziggler out there. We got Revival out there. Once again, just Baron Corbin and his henchmen to take care of Roman Reigns. But I don't think it's the last Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns is going to get his comeuppance in a big way. It could be this coming up SmackDown. It could be the final SmackDown of the year. It could be the first SmackDown of the year. Heck, it could be at the Royal Rumble, which I think it will be, because the rumors are that Roman Reigns is favorite to win this year. That being because, it's going to be an easy storyline, and like the most obvious storyline, that Roman Reigns wins and he will either challenge Bray for the Universal Championship over on SmackDown, or go to Raw and try to take on Brock Lesnar once again. And I don't want to see that, but again, all roads are leading that if Roman Reigns does win, it's going to lead to a Universal Championship match between him and Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I'm slightly kind of like, right now. I probably would say no, I don't really want that, but with a proper build-up and a proper way of telling the story, I think it would be a great matchup. I just don't think Roman Reigns needs another Royal Rumble victory here, and I really just don't think that. But, with Fox, being the home of SmackDown and Roman Reigns, and so many new audience, coming to SmackDown since coming on Fox, they've been picking up a lot of mainstream attention, though, some of you, contrary to what some of you might believe, but it is. I think WWE and pro wrestling, in a way, it's growing. AEW does have a little bit of help to do with that. They are also being promoted on TNT, and also, it's another wrestling promotion. And with the success of the NWA that they had this weekend with Into the Fire, Marty Scurll showing up, and, the views were great. I really think it's a good time for wrestling, and for anybody that right now is optimistic about the wrestling business, this is going to be a really good time to get into, which is again why it might be a good time for Vince McMahon to really push Roman Reigns, since he really feels like there might be a new coat of audience, or of eyes really, on the product. And I really do believe that there are a set of new eyes on WWE. The casuals come and go. Some went to AEW, some come back. But the fact of the matter is that Vince might be looking at Roman, once again, a clean slate for him, and deliver a new babyface to what would be believed to be a new set of eyes of audience, since they've been over on Fox. And, that not being any more cable television, it's now just public broadcast. You can literally get it without having any cable. So, Roman Reigns available in more homes than USA, does make him somewhat of a new star to a whole new set of eyes, like I've been talking about. But Roman Reigns picks up the loss here at TLC to Baron Corbin, but it was a valiant effort. And on to the women's tag team title match, defended in a TLC match, the Kabuki Warriors versus Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. This was a hell of a match. Unbelievable match. I mean, holy shit, man. And these women went out there, and they went out there to make sure that this main event featuring the women was the one that you'd remember the most. And I think they succeeded with that. I think many can really say that this was very brutal, and that all four women were out there with a goal to, take over the show. But man, some of those spills and some of those hits were just fucking brutal. I mean, Asuka was dishing out some heavy blows. Charlotte, sometimes it seems like she doesn't give a fuck. Becky, she's a top star, but she's very professional. I thought she did some really, did the most professional work in this match. And, Kairi Sane, dude, seriously, what the fuck, man? Oh my God, she took a fucking beating, dude. And, the impacts of falling off ladders, crashing into the tables, or, just getting thrown on the barricades. My God, man, these women went out there and tore up the house. But again, the Kabuki Warriors come up victorious, like I said they would. I just didn't think it'd be a right fitting for Becky and Charlotte to right now to be champions, and then also to put the kibosh on the Kabuki Warriors, since they are having a great run since they really turned heel. Midsummer or so, they started showing the signs that they turned heel. Then they really turned heel when they let go of Paige, and now they're on their own and they're doing great. They're probably the best part of the show sometimes, because you're gonna get great wrestling, and it's coming from the women's tag team champions. So good stuff there. And also the next night on Monday Night Raw, we saw Diana Taurasi make her Raw debut. She's an NXT superstar. She's well known in independence before getting picked up by the WWE. Had her debut match against Asuka in a losing effort, but man, what a great match. I mean, you throw out there somebody that, to many of the people are going to think, okay, this is just a jobber because that's what we're accustomed to. If you don't know somebody, they're a jobber. But having a proper entrance with the NXT logo, your own music, and a name preparation, and they showed a little kind of like a video introducing who she is. I really think this is great. There's a lot of confusion right now, and maybe even some like anger as to like, what are they doing? I thought they said there was going to be no more brand. It's NXT's going to stay in NXT, SmackDown on SmackDown, Raw on Raw. Once again, like they never stick to their words about superstars crossing over. Hold on a minute, dude. Don't you know what the fuck is coming up? The Royal Rumble. They've done this before, you idiot. I'm speaking to anybody who just doesn't get it. They've done this before. I mean, don't you remember the Riot Squad? Yeah, they got brought up at a time where everybody was just like, really? Right now? They brought up all these other talent women the past few years because of the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble. You need to introduce some new faces onto the screen. That way, maybe, hey, they don't show up on the Royal Rumble and everyone's like, who's that? Who's that? Now you kind of know who they are, where they come from. I love this. I think this is a great way to build up the women's division. I mean, the women's division is always stealing the show in my eyes. And I think that this past year, the women had a very good breakout year. And going into 2020, will women once again headline WrestleMania? That is still the question. Becky Lynch still being the women's champion could be a case for that. And it could be a case for Shayna Baszler to come as she looks to have a big week this week on NXT. We'll see there and the results of that and what might come up for her future. Other than that, let's put TLC to bed and move on to Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw, we saw some good stuff here. We saw Seth Rollins come out here to start the show, and once again, cutting a very great promo. I mean, heel Seth Rollins is the best Seth Rollins. Seriously, I think we can all agree with that. This is really a great promo from Seth Rollins, because throughout this year, when Seth Rollins opened up his mouth, you're kind of going to get that, long scripted promo, and also Seth Rollins not really coming off genuine. You can tell that it's not really him. It's, maybe a year before that when he wasn't speaking so much and just putting on hell of a performance every single week. Now we got this Seth Rollins where he's coming out here and he's being able to express himself and be vocal and not hold back anything from the audience. Just like he said last week, that it's time for Seth Rollins to push back. And he made it official last week. And once again, this week, that he is choosing sides with the AOP. And AOP comes out, and Seth Rollins laid out a message for Kevin Owens. And he also left a clue throughout the show that someone else was going to pay, and he apologized for what he was about to do. And the question was out, what does he mean by that? Well, are we going to see Kevin Owens throughout the night? So lingering storyline all throughout the show, good stuff there. But, this episode of Monday Night Raw was pretty much covered by a 6-man gauntlet to become the number 1 contender for Rey Mysterio's United States Championship. It featured R-Truth, Tozawa, Ricochet, Matt Hardy, also Humberto, and Andrade. This was a long match. It really went out through the length of the show. But I got to say, great stuff. I mean, the opening match, with R-Truth and Tazawa, you don't really expect much from there. R-Truth gets eliminated. Out comes Ricochet, Tazawa. Good matchup there. And again, a note on Tazawa. This is like 3 weeks in a row that he's been featured on TV. And he's going out there and having great matches. He had a great little match here with Ricochet. Ricochet picks up the win here. And out comes Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy also, too, is a surprise that he's been on TV the past 3 weeks. And look, whether you might not like the fact that they are losing every single week, man, the fact that these guys are being featured is great. That's what we wanted. That's what we every time we tune into Raw, we're just thinking, why aren't they using this guy? Or where is this guy? I'm sure this guy's in the back. Why don't they just fucking use him? And Tozawa and Matt Hardy are being utilized in a spot where, there could be a championship opportunity there. And also they're being highlighted in, halfway through the show, having great matchups here. Matt Hardy going out there and having a terrific matchup with Ricochet, and both baby faces, but I would love to see these guys go at it once again on just a one-on-one matchup with more time. That would be great. Hopefully we get that next week on Raw or in the coming weeks, but good stuff there. Ricochet picks up the win. Out comes Humberto Carrillo. He picks up the victory here. Out comes Andrade. And this really just went into Andrade doing the DDT outside on the concrete to Humberto. Humberto then having to be carted out. This brought out Rey Mysterio, a very concerned Rey Mysterio who's, friends with Humberto Carrillo. And out comes Seth Rollins. And I think now we got the picture of what Seth Rollins meant. But we didn't know what he really meant because he brought out a lead pipe, and that lead pipe was supposed to be used on Seth Rollins last week. Of course, it was given to Kevin Owens by Rey Mysterio to go do a number on AOP and Seth Rollins. Although Kevin Owens was unsuccessful with the lead pipe, he left it behind last week. And he left it behind to one Seth Rollins, who was going to come out here and make an example of Rey Mysterio for going against Seth Rollins. Yeah, for the disrespect of Seth Rollins. I mean, Rey Mysterio could have just let this be a Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins issue, and he really could have. But Rey Mysterio chose to assist Kevin Owens with the lead pipe to cause damage to Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins not going to take this very pleasant from Rey Mysterio. And along with the AOP, do a number on the legend Rey Mysterio, laying him out. But before Seth Rollins leaves Rey Mysterio, he issued a challenge for next week for the United States Championship. And in the main event, the Viper Randy Orton took on AJ Styles. 2 veterans going at it one-on-one here on the main event of Monday Night Raw. Great stuff from these two. How can these two guys ever disappoint you guys? I love the stuff. Like I said, two very well-crafted veterans going out there and tearing it up. Good stuff there from those two. All right, guys, so now it's time to give you guys what to watch. What to watch this week is going to be November 11, 1999, episode of SmackDown. This was the episode of SmackDown where Arnold Schwarzenegger made an appearance here. Of course, he was promoting his movie End of Days at the time, but also we saw a main event. We saw D-Generation X take on the team of Kane, The Rock, Shane McMahon, and Tess with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the guest enforcer. Great stuff. Go check it out this week, guys. If you have nothing to watch, that once again is the November 11, 1999 episode of SmackDown. Look it up on the network. And now it's time for our MVPs and floppers of the week. My MVP for the week, it's got to be Kairi Sane. I mean, hell of a performance, but Kairi Sane, kudos to her. And flopper of the week, guys, my flopper of the week, I am going to go with the Viking Raiders on this one. I just don't think that they really did it for me. Their 2 segments on Raw and on the pay-per-view, really were the downhill for me. Yeah, surprise, not Lana. I really think that even though it's kind of cringeworthy sometimes when Lana's on a microphone, she's playing her role the way it's supposed to be played. So good stuff there. And that's going to do it for me on another episode of Speaking Wrestling. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been episode 43. You can support this podcast by subscribing over on YouTube, looking us up at Speaking Wrestling. Also, follow us on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling and on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. Join me this Friday for NXT AEW Talk. Have a great week, guys. Bye-bye.